You ever wake up to find a whole HOA? Yeah, the kind with matching clipboards and lattes setting up camp on your fence line like they're hosting a pop-up farmer's market on your asterisk land. That was my Saturday. I thought the weirdest neighbor call would be somebody asking to borrow my tractor, not an entire association treating my orchard like it was a buy it now prize on some HGTV show. But there they were, clipboards, neon vest, espresso cart, the works. And when I told them their barn wasn't getting built on my dirt, the HOA president dialed 911 and reported me as a hostile trespasser on my own property. You can't make this up. If you're wondering how in the world that happened, pull up a chair because this story's got more twists than a bag of pretzels, and every last one comes with receipts. I run a farm, nothing fancy, 80 acres, a patchwork of pasture and orchard bees for honey apples, for cider hay for the neighbors, and every summer a couple of city kids who come out bright-eyed and leave with rope-burned forearms and a new respect for mud. On my east side, there's this subdivision, manicured lawns bins lined up by color, and HOA so proud they call themselves the Village. They've got a newsletter, wreath contest, rules about mulch color, and a map they trust way too much. When I bought my farm, I read every scrap of paper deed, title, insurance, the old easements, the county zoning, even a handwritten note about moving the fence after a neighborly spat back in '98. Let me tell you, if you've never owned land out here, the wildest animal isn't a coyote or a stray dog, it's paperwork. One wrong comma and you'll be fighting in court over which side of the ditch your cows get to drink from. Now here's where things go sideways. The developer's asterisk plat for that subdivision, a draft, not the real thing, slapped a big green rectangle labeled Community Barn and Event Lawn right over my western windbreak. That version got yanked, but the marketing team, I guess they never got the memo. They sold those homes on a dream. Someday you'll have a barn right here. Folks bought in counting on it. Then the developer skipped town, left them barnless and ticked off. The HOA, wanting to save face, decided, hey, let's build it ourselves. And for reasons I will never understand, they picked my orchard as the spot. So that's how I found myself facing off with Merritt, the HOA president, a man who looked like his name had been pressed and starched. He gave me the sort of slow, patient smile people use right before they try to sell you a timeshare. Good morning, he says. All genial. We're so thrilled to finally get started on the barn. Just a quick survey today. Minimal disruption. On whose land, I said, because when you're 3 coffees in and someone's moving your fence, that's about as clever as I get. He handed me an asterisk marketing deck. Asterisk, not a deed, not a plat, just pastel art and a fake ribbon cutting. We'll need to shift your fence a smidge, he says, for setback requirements. Behind him, a contractor's running a tape along my catalpas like he's measuring for new drapes. One resident is already planning the craft fair. My neighbor Adler, a retired mechanic, gave me one eyebrow raised and a look that said, buckle up. I pulled up photos from my closing day, me the surveyor, my dog Koa, and the actual rebar pins marking the corners. Want to see the real plat, I asked. We have a plan, Merritt insisted, as if paperwork could be willed into existence by a vote. The homeowners asterisk approved asterisk the barn. Discussion doesn't change boundaries, I told him, but they kept pushing. I said, show me a deed. Show me an easement. Show me anything that says you get to put a post in my dirt. Of course, they had nothing, just that glossy brochure and a whole lot of audacity. When I told their contractor, no work here today, Merritt whipped out his phone and called 911, reported a hostile trespasser obstructing a community project. That trespasser was me, boots planted on soil I've worked with my own hands. You should have seen the deputy's face when he rolled up a man who's had to break up more goat fights than neighbor disputes. Morning, he said. What's the situation? Merritt's finger went straight at me. Hostile trespasser. The deputy just looked at me. You got paperwork. You better believe I did. Deed, plat, title, insurance, everything with a legal stamp. He read it, followed me to the corner pins, traced the line, nodded, and told the HOA, this is not your land. Votes don't move boundaries. If you start work asterisk, you are asterisk trespassing. You'd think it would have ended there, right? Nope. Entitlement's got its own gravity. You're making an enemy of this community, Merritt hissed like he was cursing me. Adler, still on his porch, just called out, "Get off his land. No drama, just the truth." But the campaign kicked off. Anonymous notes in my mailbox, drones buzzing my hives, HOA residents whispering about agricultural spread on their Facebook page. They mailed me a letter on fancy stationery, no less, telling me I owed them $200 a day for noncompliance, ordering me to move trees and threatening fines for encroachment. I called my attorney Bishop, who ties a Windsor knot so tight it could sand glass. He just laughed. "They can't fine you, you're not under their covenants. Send them a letter with your deed. Cease and desist." So we did, and I dropped off a copy at the property manager's office where the TV looped HOA picnic footage like propaganda. Things escalated. Next, a neighbor kid, Owen, flew a drone over my hives. Poor kid, he apologized right away, but the footage ended up on the HOA's private page with folks asking if they could force me to move my bees or file a lien. Bishop said, "Add defamation to the list." A week later, they called 911 asterisk again. Asterisk this time, saying I had illegal grading equipment on their land. It was my own box blade parked where it's been for 2 years. Trail cam footage caught 2 board members hopping my fence, staking a future barn. No trespassing sign right in my pasture. I pulled it up and left it on their espresso cart with a note, "Don't litter." Now, you ever heard of the Right to Farm Act? If you haven't, it basically says you can't treat a legal farm as a nuisance just because you don't like the smell of manure or the hum of bees. I printed the law, added it to my binder, and braced for round 3. And then came the real hammer. The HOA treasurer asterisk recorded a lien asterisk on my property for unpaid dues. If you don't know, that's called slander of title, and courts hate it. My lawyer said we sue. So we did slander of title, trespass injunction. We had every photo date document stacked and ready. Right before the first hearing, I invited the HOA to a walk, the line tour, show them the pins, the fence, the law. Some came arms folded, scowls ready. I walked them corner to corner, explained every inch, explained why their dream barn would flood every spring, why no permit would ever get issued. One woman, Jeannie, her eyes full of shame, asked, "So where do we put the barn?" I pointed to their real amenity lot inside their fence. "Build it there," I said. "It'll be yours." A couple people thanked me quietly. Court day. Judge Lynn didn't mess around. Their lawyer argued community expectations. The judge replied, "Equity does not rewrite recorded title." She issued an order, restraining order injunction, made them remove signs, undo their dirt work, and correct the record. The HOA tried to keep up the fight code enforcement complaints, noise complaints, even posting photos online claiming my partner was dangerous. My partner, who volunteers at the food bank and gives away eggs to anyone who asks, just laughed. Residents started apologizing in whispers. Some sent me screenshots of Merritt telling the board to be relentless. Jeannie wrote back, "This is a mistake." Merritt, "We're not wrong, we're early." Yeah, that happened. Want to know how petty I got? I set up a pollinator demonstration right on the so-called community amenity strip, all legal, all documented. Posted signs, invited the 4-H club, planted wildflowers, put in more hives. Someone said, "Now we can't build a barn. There are bees." I waved and smiled. There have always been bees. Now there are signs. But the board wasn't done. They filed a counterclaim, said my bees caused emotional distress and interfered with community development. Bishop giggled. "Bring that to court. The judge will love it." And then a twist, they tried to tamper with the irrigation ditch. My trail cam caught them plain as day, in HOA jackets moving head gates to mess with my water. That crossed a new line. The ditch company filed a report. Bishop folded the evidence into our claim. The judge issued a scathing order: pay my legal fees, attend property law training, and never touch my boundaries again. After that, things changed. Homeowners signed a recall, got rid of Merritt and the rest. The new board showed up embarrassed and apologized. I told them, start by telling the truth. The barn's still possible, just not here. They did. Open meeting. Honest to God. Plat on the screen. Jeannie stood up and said, "We were wrong." That was it. The civil suit ended with peace. My fees paid a donation to the 4-H club, and the barn finally built on their own lot with an engineer sign-off and a big sign about loving your neighbor's bees. You want the moral paperwork matters. Fences matter. And the way you act when you're wrong, that matters most of all. No one can vote away a deed, not even with the fanciest espresso cart. Truth needs a pin in the dirt and someone willing to stand their ground. The order hangs above my desk. This land was not, and will not be a community amenity. Sometimes I just look at it, think of my grandfather, and smile. The barn's up, the bees are flying, the fence still stands. The HOA's gone back to picking wreaths, not fights. Some folks got the lesson they needed. The rest learned to love a line a little better. So what do you think? Was I right to stand my ground? Or should I have let the HOA steamroll me for the good of the community? Drop your thoughts down below and tell me where do asterisk. You draw your line when someone comes for your fence. I'll see you next time.